So this process of creating something unique and innovating, the startup cost is immense. Then there's the marketing cost is immense. Then there's the production and sustaining is immense. The cost of customer acquisition. It's not easy to be an entrepreneur. That's something that Nick, spoke about. Not every, like, we push people like, oh, go and be an entrepreneur. Like it's completely okay to have a 9-to-5 that pays you very well, that you can buy a house and then figure out how to get that house and turn it into another house and all that stuff. Even though that's a completely different discussion. But in any event, I do think that that's the big reason why we're not going as broad in terms of what we offer, is because there's a huge knowledge gap and there's a financial gap to starting things up. So for me, I think a big gap that we do have is this cross-cultural mindset, where it's not necessarily about being for us, by us anymore. I think it should be by us, about us, but for everybody. And that's not saying we forget us. It's saying that for everybody, because now if you get to the point where you can have everybody's dollars coming into our community, and then we figure out how, now that we have exponentially 20 times more money coming into our community, now we can circulate those dollars within our community, and then now we have the funds to be able to start doing more innovative stuff. So this is what I was saying before when we start talking about we have to think bigger picture, right?
That's what when you said that, that's what it reminded me of, the whole idea with Do You Know Black? Like, it's not about it's for us, by us. It's literally, it's for us, about us, but to be consumed by everyone. Like, I think that
it's by us, about us, for everybody.
Whatever. Okay. Whatever. I think it's important to distinguish that, because especially as it relates to our own brand, because we've kind of experienced that too, where people feel like we're excluding other groups by saying, like, we got like a couple of comments early on from, white people about they didn't even know what it was. Like, the show hadn't even come out yet. We had trailers up, they hadn't seen it, but they heard the title, they saw the title, and we were getting all of this hate, these hate comments and stuff on our page about Do You Know Black. And at the end of the day, the whole purpose of it, and I think that any Black brand, which goes back to the point that I said before, where we should be thinking mindfully about how we are reaching when we launch a brand, even if it's specifically for us. In the beginning, we should always have an idea of how is this going to branch out. It's not about, oh, we need to bring in other people. We need to make this acceptable for white people or Hispanics or whatever. It's not about that. It's about, how is my brand going to be reachable to the widest audience possible? Because at the end of the day, it's just what you said. It's by us, and for everybody, right? And I think that that's important to distinguish, because I feel like we really kind of cut our own cords a little short, when we do things like that, when we're like, oh, well, we got it. Like, we'll literally say, and I don't think that any other group does this, and they complain when we do this, when they're like, oh, we don't have this thing is called Black Girl Sunscreen. Well, what about everybody else? This is Black blah blah blah, like, what about everybody else? And I'm like, I don't care about all that. I'm like, they don't understand the purpose of why we've created that, because we didn't have one to exist before that. That's why we're calling this that. This is why we have this, whatever. But ultimately, I do feel like we should be thinking way more universally, way more broadly about how our products, even when they're made for us, how they okay. And I'm sorry to cut this off quickly, because I worked in the disability space for a while, and this came up too in the same sense, the idea of universal design. And people never consider people with disabilities. I forget, there was this girl I was talking to one time, and she was blind, and she was saying, we were having this conversation, and she was talking about the idea of lights, and how for us it's like nothing. Like, you just go in, you flip on a light, and for them, who they don't see anyway. And we were talking about the idea of universal design, and how if you we've made it seem like such a big deal to create things that everyone can use, right? Like if we're all benefiting from it, what does it matter, right? Like this one girl who was in a wheelchair, and she was saying she had to have accommodations to get a push button put in for their glass doors because she couldn't get in to her office every day. And then you would see, as soon as she was the one who literally had to fight to get this thing put in, and then as soon as she got it put in, you see like people coming in with coffee cups, and they're like pushing the button trying to get in. They're like using it. People who have like bags in their hand, or book bags, like everybody's using it. But like nobody would fight for it, and nobody would fight for her to get this put in. But once it was in, they all realized they could use it. And I feel like it's the same thing how we should be thinking about our products, where I think there's always going to be an audience who's in between, who's able to use our products. And we should always be thinking universally, like universal design. Like, how is this going to benefit the most amount of people possible?
Yeah. I think, yes, we should always be thinking universal design, but at the end of the day, it's still about us. It just may not look the way that you want it to look.